What a cracker of a day today. Two Karahara prayers and MS Centenary special. First, sincere thanks to Padma for that warm introduction. And sincere Satshtanga Namaskaram to everybody here. Some accomplished Vidwans, Gurus, all sitting here in the front row. And to everybody else also, sincere Namaskaram to all of you. I thought today we would do some theory. We've all been playing Mridangam, listening Mridangam, doing a lot of laya stuff. We'll take a slight detour from practice and look at theory a little bit today. The concept that I'm going to be talking about is called Thala-Dasa-Pranas. Thala, we all know what it means. Dasa means 10. And prana, the pretty rich term that comes from our Vedic yogic tradition. Prana is the life force that permeates the entire cosmic universe that we live in. It's the thing that keeps us ticking. And it moves us, it gives us the intellect. Some poor translations say it is the oxygen stuff that's really not capturing what prana means. So, motivated from that term, we find something called Thala-Dasa-Pranas. These are life forces that constitute key elements of what Thala is. So we're going to talk about some of them. We won't have time to cover all 10 of them today, but we'll do a few of them. Specifically around some time and speed related concepts. Right, so we all use these terms. Naksharam, Matrai, what the gati of the talam or rendering is, kalai, kalam, graham, and so on. So we're going to spend a little bit of time focusing on some of these time and speed related things and hopefully learn a bit. Before I go into this though, I would request all of you to really, Syrian say the Pereyalam Purute Arul say bye. So okay, that took some doing this week. Staying up late night, drawing this slide up. So first, let's start at the top of the graph, right? We can all relate to this really basic concept, right? The physical time of our existence. We know that we organize our time and count time in terms of hours and minutes and seconds, that we're all used to that. We don't have the presence of a clock with us. We can count like this, right? 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. Or simply like this. Of course, these days, to help us do this, we have a device called Metronome. Either physical or, more popularly these days, your favorite smartphone app that does this for us. So the top part of the slide shows the metronome beats. The first set of rectangles are representing those. The term column really derives from this. It represents the measure of time, physical time, as described in the Thala-Dasa-Pranas. And of course, in the days of Sangeeta Ratnakara, there was no metronome, right? So they had interesting ways of describing physical time. There's this concept called kanam, which apparently is the minutest time that we can measure. And they describe this as the time that it takes for a needle to pierce a lotus petal, when 100 lotus petals are strung together. If we keep time like this in a kacheri, you can imagine the difficulty of doing that. So we will go with metronome. That's easier for us. So the picture shows a metronome that is beating at 80 beats per minute, right? So given that, let's now talk about how this relates to the time for talam. Right? Talam doesn't exist outside physical time. It is in fact how we reckon physical time in the construct of a musical composition. The bottom part shows the layout for a cycle of Adi Thala. Right? As you can all see, it's got those 8 boxes representing as 8 units. So, what are those units? We know that we all are able to comfortably keep Thalam with its very unique, special way of counting its time and so on. What are those units called? That is what we refer to as Akshara. Right? So, a cycle of Adi Thalam is shown here as those 8 boxes, and they are called Aksharams. And see how that relates to the physical time in the upper part of the slide. The metronome series shows the physical time, and the bottom set of rectangles represent how they relate to the physical time. So each aksharam, so that's the vertical connection between the top and the bottom that I've shown. In particular, aksharam 3, if you notice, it shows that every aksharam, the time for an aksharam in the Thala cycle may or may not be equal to the exact single beat of a metronome. In this picture, it shows that it consumes 2 full beats of a metronome. That's how we get the concept of kalai. Right? Kalai is something that we should think of as a multiplier that allows us to perceive a different tempo what the metronome actually is set to. If you just look at the metronome, that is what the tempo of a musical composition is. It's beating at 80 beats per minute, that's our tempo. We all practice with metronomes. If you want to practice higher speed thing, we just turn it up to 90, to 100, 120, whatever that is that we need. And that changes the tempo of the rendering. One thing to remember here is throughout the duration of musical composition, the tempo is a constant. It never changes, right? Just like the metronome, it never changes its tempo. It beats at the same exact pulse rate. But how we perceive the speed of the tempo of a composition is where the kalai multiplier comes in. So when we sing something at 2 kalai or 3 kalai, it's left to our imagination. We can do a 4 kalai. However long we want to make every aksharam for a thala, we just multiply that by the number of metronome beats that we want. Later, we'll discuss how that may not even be an even number. That could be a fractional number too for kalai. Now, for every aksharam, we can pack a certain number of syllables, notes, swaras, phrases, if you will, within the time interval for an aksharam. How many we pack is within a particular aksharam's interval is what we call as gati. Right? Gati in Sanskrit means speed. Right? So if you look at the third aksharam, I'm showing a tisra gati because I'm showing six mantras within that time interval. So we've covered 2 more new concepts now, if you're keeping track of how many concepts we are discussing here. Matra is the time it takes to render a note at a certain gati within the space of an akshara. Right? So tisra gati shown here has 6 notes. If you have a Sankirna gati, you might imagine some other time interval for a matra. This exactly is what causes us to perceive speed. Right? So we go with 3 notes per aksharam, we feel a certain speed. We increase that to 5 or 7 or 9, that's when we get the feeling of an increase in speed. And hence the term gati that applies to it. The key thing to observe is that, oops, it's going in the wrong direction. Speed and tempo are different things. As I said earlier, tempo is set by the rate at which the metronome is going, right? That does give us a perception of speed, but we can alter that easily by changing the gati at which we render the notes within the construct of a musical composition. And that's very important to understand. While kalai is a tempo concept, it can make the tempo of the whole composition go slower or longer. Gati is a speed concept. It can help us perceive speed within the construct of a certain tempo. Now, kalam is being used somewhat loosely as well in our sort of day-to-day intercourse, right? Earlier we said column refers to the time interval, that's how we measure physical time. That is one definition, one meaning for column. There's another way in which we use column, right? So we say male column, randang column, moonang column, these kinds of things. And there, the association is with speed. Instead of rendering 3 notes in an aksharam, if we render it as 6, then we have doubled the speed. If we have rendered it as 12 notes, then we have quadrupled the speed. Right? So that, we use the term column to describe that speed change as well. But it's important to understand in which context we are using this term. The general meaning of column is the overall tempo of the musical composition, and that's where the term kala pramanam comes from. Right? So we know that certain compositions are intended to be sung or rendered in a particular kala pramanam. There, the concept is tempo. Whereas when we do pallavis or when we sing kalpanaswarams, when we play mridangam, korvais, etc., we can alter the speed at which we pack notes within naksharam by doubling the rate at which we do it. And there, the third column refers to speed. Now, focusing on the RTPs these days, yesterday I had the opportunity to accompany Kasturi Akka at Ganesha Utsavam, and she sang an Adi Talam set to Kanda Nadai. And I actually wonder, is Nadai really the right term to describe this? Everybody does this, sort of, so I'm going to ask an open question here. Nadai actually is used generally to mean gati, right? So we say Tisra Nadai, and there we really refer to the speed or the gati or the number of notes that we play per akshara. That's a fine definition. But when we say Kanda Nadai Aditalam, that's the Pallavi, there we don't really refer to the speed concept, do we? We're actually talking about a Kalai multiplier. We're talking about the tempo of the talam. So I would argue that we say it's a Kanda Kalai Aditalam Pallavi as opposed to a Kanda Nadai Aditalam Pallavi. Open for debate, but that's what I thought. So, yes, it is absolutely possible to do a Sankirna Jadi, Matya Talam, Pallavi, and Mishra Kalai with Kanda Gati. That's pretty much it. So, hopefully, this was a motivating introduction to some of these concepts, which interestingly have been catalogued in very old treatises going back to Sangeeta Ratnakara. Thanks again for listening with patience. What might have been a very precise subject.